Welcome back to the Two Blues podcast and to Two Blues Tuesday, our weekly roundup, talking all things football, not just Chelsea. Of course, we're going to be talking transfers today, but we're going to get a little bit of a reaction from C-Money from last night's game. Obviously, Chelsea back into the top four. This today is going to be essentially our mid-season review. I know we are a couple of games past the mid-season point, but Chelsea have played 22 games, Liverpool 21 at the top of the league. So we're basically there. But today we're going to get into where we thought we were going to be this time 6 months ago and how far we have progressed, comparatively speaking. So let's start it off, Mr. C-Money. Back-to-back streams, 2 days in a row. Good to be back. But yeah, start us off, bro. Obviously, positives from last night. It didn't seem like it was going to be an incredibly positive reaction when we went in 1-1 at half-time after that Robert Sanchez clanger. But a solid second half performance. And overall, I think a pretty tidy performance from the majority of Chelsea players yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we highlighted a couple of players that we wanted to really see how they performed. I think the three players that we pointed out yesterday were Sanchez, Jackson, and Kidden Dewsbury Hall, which is funny because two of them went on to have stinkers and one of them had an all right game. And it was kind of the opposite way
Which
around.
one was the all right game in your eyes?
I thought Dewsbury Hall.
According to my family, all three of them dropped stinkers.
Well, listen, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall didn't do anything as usual, right? Which is just another game of tepid performance. And then you can look at the stats and you can convince yourself he was all right. But I just think that the eye test is the biggest thing for me, at Chelsea Football Club. And he just doesn't pass it at all. It's calamity. Calamity Kieran. I can just see it from a mile away every time he's about to lose the ball. I mean, he just takes the ball 18-foot touch in front of him. I saw Jackson have it a couple of times, the same thing. But yeah, man, Robert Sanchez for me was the star of the show, and not in a good way. I thought he just looked lost. I thought he looked just out of his depth. And, like the goal that he's conceded, it's just another one, another direct involvement in conceding a goal. He's dropped the ball in front of McDoherty. It's just like, we're at the point now where teams take corners against us and they think, you know what, I'm going to swing this one back post and let's see what he does with it. And it works.
Acuna was shooting, bro.
100%. There's no way that was a cross. I've seen it happen. I've seen it this year. When they aim back post and they go for it. It's like FIFA 25. It's like they aim back post and there's a chance it might hit the back of the net. You know what I mean? And you look at Robert Sanchez in sticks and he's thinking, you know what, this geezer's not fucking locked in. So he swung it and he's dropped it right in front of him. And it's in front of McDoherty, who just does what anyone else would do. And they stick their foot to it and he's found the back of the net. And I if this is against Wolves, fair enough. You know what I mean? We can maybe go into a second half 1-1 and go and score 2 goals. We can't do that against teams like, Liverpool, Arsenal, even Spurs, United. We can't do that against them. And, I said to you, we're going to go a goal up. It's a question of, do we go 2? Because if we go a goal up, I've got a feeling we're going to lose the game. And, when they equalise, I was thinking, that's it. Second half, we're going to come out cagey, rattled. They're going to score because they've got confidence. And we're going to shut up shop. Thank God that's not what happened. But, yeah, I wasn't overall impressed.
Yeah, I mean, we're both very much on the same side. It seems like we are both banging our heads against a very, very frustrating brick wall. That's the 4th error leading to a goal this season. I mean, I know for a fact there are no other goalkeepers with that stat in the Premier League. I mean, Andre Onana, I think, is only at 3. But, I mean, Maresca came out after the game and said, how many mistakes has he made? 4. Or how many times has he saved us? More than 4. But that's his job, bro. That's what he's supposed to do. He's got one job, which is to not drop the ball on the fucking opposition number 9's head. And he's done it 4 times in half a season. And yeah, if there is anybody out there that is pro Sanchez, please let us know. And why? What do you see in this guy? As Jamie Carragher said yesterday, and it's not very often that I'll be reiterating Jamie Carragher takes on this podcast, but Carragher said he might be a Premier League goalkeeper, but he's bottom half Premier League. He ain't top half Premier League. He's got the shot stopping ability, but so did Kepa. So did Enrique Hilario. So did Kudachini. This goalkeeper roundabout needs to stop. It needs to be addressed in the summer for good. And unfortunately, I don't see it happening because we've still got Petrovic, Jorgensen, Pender, Slanina. Exactly. We've got so many goalkeepers on the books. It's going to take years to sort this position out. But another position that we kind of highlighted before the game, and I'm really glad that we did, because in hindsight, it is a big issue in this Chelsea squad. But we looked at the team, looked at the bench, obviously in the absence of Romeo Lavia and Enzo Fernandez, just two central midfielders in that squad, and both of them started in Moises Caicedo and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Now, we touched on Dewsbury Hall and how the game kind of bypassed him. Caicedo was essentially an island for the majority of that game yesterday. Is this centre mid? I mean, I don't know about you. When Caicedo went down in the first half, I think I genuinely shit myself. I think genuinely a little bit of poo came out. I was worried. Like, I thought that was genuinely going to be our season over. If we've got no other centre mids and Kiernan Dewsbury Hall's the only one to hold it down, we're in trouble. So I want to get your thoughts on the centre mid position in general and what you think we need. But also, we kind of discussed yesterday about the possibility of bringing Andre Santos back. And we both agreed maybe wouldn't be the best idea for him and his development. But what about Leslie Ugo-Chukwu? Because, you know, he wasn't playing in the first half of the season. And obviously, he's a little bit more of a defensive-minded centre midfielder. So with Southampton all but confirmed going down, what do you think of bringing him back for a little bit of cover?
Yeah, you know, that's what I was going to say. I think that you look at those two players, you know, Ugo-Chukwu and Andre Santos, and you think one of these guys has got to be recalled. One of them's got to stay because their progression has been excellent. I personally think for both of them it's been excellent, but I think Andre Santos is the one that's a bit more clear. You know, you can see it on paper how well he's been performing in the role. What do we, as you said yesterday, which was very well put, if we bring him back now, how much are we stunting his development from forcing him to just be that guy who's going to be the sixth now at Chelsea, you know, versus when we let him be at a club like Strasbourg, where he can kind of be a figurehead in midfield and kind of take it slow and not have the pressure or the expectation. And, you know, he can maybe even afford a little knock or a little injury, or he can afford a little bit of time to kind of just get back into the full paces. And that will work wonders going forward in his career. But if he was to call back now, go into a way more physical league and get slapped about left, I think that it's quite a negative thing. I think the idea of taking someone who's in the league already, you know, who's just been more experienced since last time we've seen them, and to be honest, at one point was good enough. I think there's a shout that we could bring back Ugo-Chukwu. It's not like Southampton are going to be missing him, you know what I mean? I mean, as you said, they're all but gone. They're probably the worst team I've ever seen in the Premier League. And, you know, I remember that Derby
Worse
County
than
side.
Derby? Oh, no, I knew you were going to say that.
I think that they are worse than that Derby County side, because the thing is, even if they end up with more points than that Derby team, you know, shout out Matthew Etherington, by the way. What a forehead he had. At least they bagged goals and they didn't lose 4-5-6-0 every week. But Southampton, I feel like they're getting slapped about 4-5-6 by anyone who wants it, really. I mean, it's just, you know, and I think for a player, it's quite a negative thing to have to go through in that locker room, you know. So I think overall, it's probably, you know, the last case scenario is to bring back Ugo-Chukwu. But I think that it's time to trigger that. You know, I think that it is time to go to our last-ditch scenario, because, to be honest, it's better than Kiernan Dewsbury Hall.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone is better than Kiernan Dewsbury Hall at this point. It's very frustrating to have players like Cesare Casadei, who we both rate highly, Chukwuemeka, you know, not in the squad for tactical reasons, whatever it is. We know what it is. It's because they're getting sold. It's because Maresca doesn't really want to use them or doesn't see a future for them, which does strike me as strange. And yeah, you know, we have no shortage of quality young centre midfielders. You know, we've got Keanu Dyer, Rak-Saki, who have both had minutes in the Conference League this season. You know, Tyreek George getting his Premier League debut last night. Fantastic to see. We'll talk about those guys in a little bit more depth in a minute. But the centre midfield issue, I mean, you look at this transfer window. Chelsea have been targeting wingers, centre-backs, two positions that we have virtually unlimited reserves and options of. They are two positions we do not need right now. Yet we've signed Mamadou Sarr. We're talking about Garnacho. Garnacho's agent apparently at the game again yesterday. I mean, I don't want to call it a mismanagement of funds or misallocation of funds. We've got to choose our words very carefully, because on the face of it, I'm very happy with 90% of this Chelsea squad. And where we are compared to where I thought we were going to be at the start of the season, I think we've done better. I think far and away, the run of form that we've had in this first half of the season, I didn't expect us to string so many wins together. Yes, the Conference League, we were expecting to push those guys aside. Would have been hoping to have got through the first couple of rounds of the Carabao Cup as well as the FA Cup. Unfortunately, we got knocked out of that by Newcastle. But we put solid teams, solid performances together against the big teams. We didn't drop points to Arsenal, didn't drop points to Manchester United, to Tottenham. Newcastle we beat in the league. A lot of these teams are pushing on. Have you been surprised at Chelsea? And if so, I mean, what's your thought on how Chelsea have been compared to where you thought they would be?
It's just funny because it's so just on all the topics you said, I think everything comes back around to how short-minded the sort of football fan base is, and even in the business. I mean, it feels like we're buying in centre backs because 6 months ago we had none. And now we're like patching that hole up. And I feel like next summer when we get in Andre Santos and say we don't sell Cassidy and we've got stacked centre mids, probably going to go in there and try and buy Kobbie Mainoo again, aren't we? So, I mean, it just feels like we're 6 months behind on that front. But yeah, when it comes to like where Chelsea are now, as opposed to where I expected them to be, 100%, I'm very happy with it. And I think that any Chelsea fan really, who's not happy with where we are, you're just being spoiled because, even the idea of saying the word title next to the word race at any point attaining to Chelsea this season would have been a positive look. And we had that. We had that confidence to be like, listen, we're second in the league. We can fucking drive on and push these lot. We can win the league. And, obviously now it's looking a little bit less likely. But to be honest, mate, like I still think to some degree we're in it. I think people forget how the Premier League is so fickle. And, these things just happen. It just takes a really long stretch of positive form. See what happened at Man City. They seem untouchable going into the 9th game week of this season. It wasn't like it was they've come back in from summer and they're a bit leggy. No, they played well for like 8 weeks. They had that Rodri injury like quite early on in the season, and that's what's led to this sort of downfall. But it took 2 or 3 bad results before people went, what's happening here? And all of a sudden, it's 9 or 10 games with drop points. That's when people started to say, okay, Man City have fallen off. They have fallen off. When's that going to happen with Liverpool? Because it could happen. It could. Why not? Why couldn't it happen? Why could they not go on an 8-9 game rough stretch?
100% playing on that. City have been diabolical for 3 months. They're back in the top 4.
100%, exactly right. And City have bounced back and they're all fine. And everyone's talking about could they make a late little charge? I think people need to kind of just do the math a little bit and realise that nothing's really confirmed in this league. Chelsea finish above City. I will be astonished by that result. I would think that we've done excellent. But at the same time, if we don't get top 4, at this point, I'll be quite disappointed because of how I've seen us play and where I've seen us in the league so far this season. I think we've got more than enough ability, more than enough firepower to get ourselves into those European slots after winning a European trophy this season. And overall, I would say that's a positive look.
Yeah, 100%. And you've got to say, all due credit to and all due respect to Nottingham Forest. If Nottingham Forest finish in the top 4 and we don't, it's a long, hard look at ourselves and the £1 billion that we've spent. I know they have been spending a lot of money, but yeah, a team led by Chris Wood and with their best midfielder or best wide midfielder and best defender being 2 academy graduates from Chelsea and Hudson-Odoi and Aina. Yeah, that would be a big disappointment to finish below Nottingham Forest, I think. But it is, I mean, how much do you see? Because like you just said there, and I'm with you, I'd be very surprised if Chelsea did finish above Man City. I know they've got a torrid run of games now. Like genuinely, they've got, and typical that they're back into form when they're playing us at the weekend, but they've got Club Bruges. They've got PSG, then they've got us, then they've got Bruges. And then in no particular order, they've got Tottenham, Newcastle, Liverpool, Man United. They've got all of the bigger teams kind of back to back. I think there's 9 or 10 games where they only have one that you would assume is a nailed on win. And Liverpool are definitely, they are in the latter stages of the Champions League. They're going to be having tough midweek games, whereas Chelsea are playing, a maximum of 4 games in the Conference League now to the end of the season. There is definitely ground to be made up. And in terms of this Chelsea squad and the balance that we've had between the A team and the B team, I think we've seen that kind of blurred in the last few weeks, obviously with no Conference League football and players having to step up. But the main player, and we are kind of blurring the lines here between kind of the transfers and kind of reviews, but the player that I was most surprised not to see get on yesterday was Christopher Nkunku. Now, given that he is our top scorer, he scored 13 goals. Is that, and I know we banged on about this, so I don't want to get you to repeat what we've been spieling for the last 2 weeks. But how do you feel about Nkunku's situation in this Chelsea squad? Is he closer to the first team than he was when we were playing Conference League football, or is he managed somehow to drop further off?
I'll be honest, I think he's quite close to the door. I think that's a big part of why he didn't come on yesterday, and I was thinking it the whole time. If we don't see Nkunku come on, I reckon there's a deal being figured out between him and Bayern. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, listen, at first, when I heard Nkunku to Bayern, potential swap for Mattis Tell with some cash involved, I was thinking, listen, I'm like licking my lips over that deal. I'll take that 100%, the player profile and everything. Then I start thinking about it, Do we want another project player? Probably not. Do we need a striker? Yes. Is he a striker? Yeah. But he's been played as a winger for most of last year, and he's still super young. Where do Bayern Munich want to play Nkunku, in Kane's position or in Musiala's position? Because to be honest, I don't think he can move into either of them. I think that this deal is a little bit more on paper than it is in reality, because when you think about everything all in, I don't really know why Bayern Munich would want to go for someone under the profile of Christopher Nkunku to replace Harry Kane, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I think that people, they hear the name Nkunku, they hear Bayern Munich, they hear Chelsea. Everyone's just going and pulling storylines together. This season, I'm done with Fabrizio Romano. I think the Trevor Chalobah, Mark Guehi situation is the thing that me personally, I said, I'm not doing this. Because over the span of 4 days, I read there's no clause to call him back for Trevor Chalobah. Chelsea are looking for a buy option for Mark Guehi. Then it's Mark Guehi's for sale, then he's not for sale. Then Chalobah does have a recall. Then he gets recalled a day later. I'm not going to sit here and listen to this geezer tell me everything that could be a possibility and then just pick one when it's happened. So yeah, it's difficult to follow the money, if you will. It followed sort of the line of transfers. But I think that a big part of why Nkunku didn't play is to do with the fact that there is a little bit of truth behind his departure. But Bayern Munich is the thing that I'm kind of questioning. Is it Bayern, or is someone else making a cheeky offer like an Arsenal?
Yeah, for Bayern Munich, it just doesn't really seem like it makes sense. Look, he's a Bayern Munich player through and through. I can see him in the jersey. It makes sense technically and talent wise, but yeah, you look at the players that they've got. Listen, I'd entertain an Nkunku Musiala swap deal. I would I would fly him there myself. I would pay for that ticket. But apart from that, maybe even an Elise. Not that I could see him leaving. Champions League football. He's 10 goals, 10 assists already. He's flying at Bayern Munich. He's waited so long to be on this elite stage. So it'd be kind of a step backwards for him to go from Bayern Munich at the elite to Chelsea right now. But yeah, Matthias Tell is not the player that I'd be targeting if we were looking at a swap move. And if they did really genuinely want him, it's one of those where we hold the cards. He's surely on a long-term contract. But yeah, you're right, man. Just not seeing him come off the bench yesterday did just ring alarm bells in my head. And I'm sitting there thinking, if he can't even get 10 minutes against Wolves when we're at 1-1, I mean, it's one of them where how long realistically does he have at his club? But we have seen players frozen out and then brought back in. And of course, there's only one player that I'm talking about, the boy who lived, the boy who returned, as he's been dubbed in training, Trevor Chalobah, with a near perfect performance yesterday. Obviously robbed of a goal by Noni Madueke, but assist, 99 touches, most on the pitch, clearances, interceptions, most on the pitch. He was everywhere, absolute monster, and played on the left side of defence, which as a right-sided centre-back has been something we are sorely, sorely lacking. To what extent is Trevor Chalobah the answer to all of our problems?
I think it goes to show how important and how progressive a loan move can be for young players' careers. Going and getting the minutes and getting the tread on the tyres, but somewhere where the implications aren't as grand. He can afford to lose 1-0 at Crystal Palace, because then they go up against an Arsenal. They go there and say they lose 2-1. I think that they can draw positives from it. But if it happens to Chelsea, I think it's hard to do. And, I think that this is why it's important. He's able to get the experience, play, as a focal point in the defence and really understand his important role, come into Chelsea and implement the same thing. I feel like that's what we got yesterday. I feel like we got a not a finished product. which is the most impressive part. I feel like you can see he's not a finished product. There's still room for development as a centre back. But my God, the player that he's turned into over the last 6 months, it felt like, gee, you've got that much cardio in you, Trevor. Because I remember at points last season, he seemed like, he questioned the bomb to go and meet the striker. He questioned the following runs, and now I don't see that at all. I mean, he was happy on the ball. He was great off the ball, fantastic off the ball as well. Like it felt like when you watch it, when you're playing FIFA and the other guy's on the counter attack and you're looking at your centre back and you're like, what are you doing over there? It was like you couldn't pick 1 second where you could even think that about Trevor Chalobah. Like he was in the line, he was always making sure he was focused, and it was a entertaining centre back performance, which is something that's very, very rare and seldom, especially at Chelsea Football Club. So I was very, 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 very impressed with that, and I was also very impressed by the management and the business side of things. Not going in and spending an arm and a leg on a player like Mark Guehi, who is excellent. Don't get me wrong. But, with Trevor Chalobah dropping performances like that, if he holds it down, I think that's 60, 70 million saved, to be honest.
100%. And it is, the easiest situation, as we all said. Look, Crystal Palace fans might have been mad, but at the end of the day, it was no cost to us to bring him home. And it would have been an oversight. It would have been cutting our nose off to spite our face to go out and sign Mark Guehi or something just to charge a little bit more for Chalobah. I mean, look, I'd still like Mark Guehi. I still think he's a fantastic player. We'll see what happens come summer. I'd be very surprised if Chelsea, once Chelsea register interest in a player, it's very rare that we forget about them. It's very rare we don't go for our man. And it does feel like Mark Guehi has been kind of identified as that guy. And if Chalobah can come in, do it for the second half of this season, and then he gets Guehi next year as his partner in crime, already up to speed, look, I'm not propping for that because that means no Levi Colwill. So, we'll have to take that with a grain of salt. We'll have to have that conversation later. But it's a possibility, man. It's definitely a possibility. In terms of Chelsea, I mean, we've got 9 days until the end of the transfer window. And Chelsea have obviously recalled Trevor Chalobah. We've recalled Aaron Anselminho as well. And we've reportedly bought Mamadou Sarr from Strasbourg, who will apparently be loaned back out to them in the second half of the season, which means we've got to call one of the players back. I believe it will be Caleb Wiley, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But in terms of incomings, I mean, no one of note. Do you think Chelsea need to go out in the next 9 days and do anything in the transfer window in incoming wise? And if so, who?
Omar Marmoush would have been nice. That's a real striker. But listen, I don't think so. I find it, difficult to think what we would need to go and break the bank for. I think that we have everything in droves right now. Maybe, the centre mid situation is a little bit up in the air. Obviously, injuries going to heal. None of these injuries really feel like they're going to be long-term, month-long injuries. So I think it's going to be a recall of Guchukwu back from Southampton, just get him back in the squad, get him in as a rotational player. Him, Lavia, Caicedo, Dewsbury Hall, let's chop the 4 of them up in sort of till Enzo's back in and kind of reintegrate the squad. I think that up front we're fine. The only thing that I would really say, if you wanted to do anything, break the bank, get a striker. Just go and get a world-class striker. We've said this for so long now. Sick of it, to be honest, mate. Like if we're gonna stick with Nicholas Jackson, it is what it is. That's what we're gonna do. I'll stick by my striker. That's my 9. Let's see what he can do. But end of the day, we're gonna hold it down, aim for top 4. I reckon we can do that with this squad. I feel like Petrovic, fantastic. Him coming in summer is going to be a big deal. Same with Andre Santos. It's really curious about the Cesare Casadei thing, isn't it, with the centre mid? Because I wish that he would be a bit more of an option. It is just annoying that Enzo Maresca doesn't want to utilise him. Weirdest part is they've got history last year at Leicester together. I would have thought that maybe it would have given him a little bit more rub, if anything. He would have been like, I know the player that I've got here. I just think Enzo's not seeing what we're seeing, and he sees an awful lot more of Cesare Casadei than we do. So I can't fault the manager, but there's just something about that which is fishy to me, and I wish we could get more time with him.
Yeah, it is a little bit strange, but as you said, they see more than what we see. There must be something that Casadei, Triple Mecca aren't showing Enzo Maresca, whether it's the attitude, whether it's, he thinks there are other players with a higher
But then
ceiling.
Noni gets minutes.
I don't know.
It's weird, man.
What did you think of Noni's performance yesterday? Because the fan base is split down the fucking middle, like 50-50. 50% think he had a stinker, and 60% are like, hang on, he's our most dangerous winger.
I do not think...
Did I just say 50 and 60%?
He said 50-50, don't worry, you're fine.
Calm.
I could not agree with him being our most dangerous winger at all. I think that he's very easy to get found out. I think he's got I think his mental's a massive problem. I think, like I understand, for example, let's take the goal, for example. The ball's clearly rolling in. He wants the credit. He goes, he gets it, he taps the ball in with his head, all of that. Fair enough to him. He's just doing what he's got to do. Say he leaves it and he gets saved by some miracle. Yeah. He's a laughing stock. He gets kicked out of the club, right? I understand that. He's got to do his job. It's everything else, to be totally honest. It's the picking the ball up and slowing down and looking around like he's like going to make something happen. He just thinks he's Cole Palmer. He thinks he's like a bagsman. He's not. I find it really cringy when he tries to do that one-on-one with fullbacks. You know what I mean? Like, I was talking about it yesterday before the game. When Jadon Sancho's going one-on-one, there's this threat of like he's going to skin someone's going to get slipped. Like he's going to make someone look like an idiot. I very rarely feel that with Noni Madueke. When he's charging in at fullbacks, he's going to make someone look a right fool. Because if anyone gets close to touching him, he either flies down on the ground or plays an early cross. So I don't know. I'm getting a little bit with Noni Madueke. I didn't think he had a fantastic performance yesterday. I think the fact that he got a tap in kind of saved him on paper.
100%. It was the most Salah-esque performance ever.
Yeah,
just scored the goal, padded the stat, and then disappeared. But yeah, for me, it was the celebration, man. Look, I understand, and I was saying to him, look, I was saying, I can't believe he's nicked that. I can't believe he's nicked that. And then I was thinking, you know what? You're right. If you're not sure it's going in, you want to make sure, whatever. But at that point, all you do, you nod the ball in, and then you turn straight to Trevor Chalobah and you go over and congratulate him for his goal.
He's running over again.
His goal. Buddy, he ran away and did a knee slide like he just scored a 40-yard banger, like he just done a Messi. Yeah, man.
It's mental, bro.
Very, very strange. It is very, very strange. But fingers crossed. Look, if he's still getting goals and assists, I think he's our biggest contributor this season. He's got more goals than Saka in the Prem this season. So look, 3 of them might have come in one game.
Can I just say this as well? Just because you play football, I've played football. We understand how like locker room works and training and all of that. We understand how that works. Like, for me, if I had been part of a club like Chelsea, I've been friends with a player like Trevor Chalobah, and he's left to go do better things for his career. Then he's been recalled back in 2 days ago, and he's starting with you, right? You would know that he's got to have a good performance, and you would to some degree care about your colleague. You see the ball coming in over the top, and you scored the goal. You know that he's 100% done that. And everyone on that pitch knows Trevor Chalobah is having a fucking blinding game right now. He looks incredible. He played amazing. He's solid going back forward, solid at the back. And he just makes it about himself. And this is what I mean. The Noni show, it was something I said yesterday before the game. The Noni show is a little bit too much for me. And I really don't like that he's the centre of the attention all the time. And it was just another small thing to just grind my gears a little bit, just the lack of that team player ability. If you hadn't played with me for 6 months, you come in as a defender and you put in essentially score a goal, but I get the credit for it. I am not doing no knee slide, bro. I'm holding up my Jehovah's Son, pointing at my chest, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm getting it out, bro. But yeah, I feel for Trevor.
Yeah, 100%. Just very quickly, guys, on the TikTok. Apologies, you can't hear Charms because I've got my headphones on. I completely didn't realize that. Normally, I'm not wearing the headphones. But if you want to hear both parties, this is also live on the YouTube. So go to the link in my bio on the TikTok at 2Blues in there. This little link here. Go and hit that on the podcast, on my profile. Link in bio on the YouTube. Myself and my co-host, Mr. C Money Picks, are live. We're going to be live for another 15, 20 minutes. So there is still conversation to get into. So jump over to the YouTube, get involved in the comments. I can already see Seb is... Oh, the camera's gone. I can already see Seb is in the comments. What are you telling us, bro? Seb, we agree, man. We are all aligned, man. I don't think there is a single Chelsea fan that thinks Sanchez deserves to be our number one. Believe me,
knows who our goalkeeper is. So,
believe me, we all know. We're all in agreement. But I mean, is Jorgensen the answer? My dad's not not convinced. I
Why does
don't
he
know
not
if
like
he is.
Jorgensen? I think he's been absolutely stellar when we've seen him, and
I know.
Petrovic.
I asked the same question and he couldn't really answer. To be honest, he just wasn't convinced. I think it's more of an eye test thing. He hasn't been wholly convinced, but he's very much the same as us. He thinks out of the three, Petrovic is the best option. But yeah, fuck knows if that'll happen. That is anybody's guess. I would not be putting my money on that. But moving
It's
away from
mental, isn't
Chelsea. It is nuts. It is nuts. I mean, fingers crossed if we do have to recall someone from loan from Strasbourg because we're only allowed 3 players over there. I mean, bring Petrovic back. Get rid
I
of
don't see why
Sanchez in the
not,
window,
right?
man.
Tell
Get
me
rid
about
of
it, yeah.
bring him home. But moving away from Chelsea for the last 15, 20 minutes, because this is, of course, our weekly roundup. We all talking all things football. And where better to start with the news coming out today that Ruben Amorim had the Manchester United players in tears after the game. I don't know. Have you seen this?
I did not know about that, bro.
So there is a report come out saying that the whole changing room has been smashed up to fuck. The TV is broken. Players were crying and silent. And he obviously has come out and said that Manchester United, this is the worst team in Manchester United history. Now, I can't believe I'm saying it again for the second time on a stream. Carragher said a fairly coherent thing earlier. He just said, I don't understand why he would say that, what he has to benefit from saying that. Surely the players, how are you going to get the players to follow you? How are you going to get the players behind you when you've just called this Manchester United team the worst team in the history of the club?
No, listen. I can listen. My best friend Toby. If you're watching this, you're gonna love this one. He always says this one, right? There's 2 types of players in this world, right? There's players that you need to give a hug and a kiss to, tell them they're amazing, yeah? And there's players that you need to shove a fucking rocket up their ass. Ruben Amorim has done so much cuddling and swaddling and telling all these players that they're going to be this, they're going to do that, and all together as a team, they're going to be just fine, and that they are Man United, and they're going to become Man United. I think he's looked at his locker room, he's just sat back, watched that performance, and just went, all of you lot need rockets shoved so far up your ass that you got them fucking sticking out your eyelids. And all of you stink the gaff out. The lot of you are good enough players to be at Man United. This is the worst Manchester United that has ever been. And if you want to change that, you can do that. You can go and do that. You can go on the pitch and fucking perform. But if anyone, bar you, Kobe Mainu, because you've been all right, Bruno Fernandes, you need to wake up, geezer. You're the club captain. You don't do anything. You go missing for half a season, have one good game. Everyone thinks you're world class again, including myself. I even said it yesterday. You know, I get bought into the bias of Bruno Fernandes. I get convinced he's a fantastic player. He goes missing for long stretches of times, like games of stretches, right? And then there's Garnacho, who they want to get rid of. Every single other person in that team needs a wake up call, and they need to remember that the money that they're on. But what they get paid in the day would pay me a month's salary. They need to wake up, get their shoes on, kick some fucking ball. Because if they don't, Amram's going to be out of a job. All of them lot are going to get sold, and that club's going to go to pot. And that would be the best thing that I could see happen to Manchester United. I would love it to happen to Manchester United. When it comes to English football, it would be horrendous. It would be catastrophic for the sport, in my personal opinion. I think he's trying to do a last ditch. I'm saving my job here. I'm gonna fucking smash this gaff up and turn into the Hulk. I'm gonna let them know who I won. And I think that he wasn't afraid about doing it in media as well. And you know what? I think there's some respect to go behind that.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing to me is before the January transfer window, he made it very, very clear, very public that Manchester United would be busy in the transfer window. They needed a few outgoings to finance the incomings. I mean, they haven't even got rid of the players, and they are looking now with 9 players to go at a situation whereby if they sell players, they ain't going to be able to replace them in time, bro. Definitely not with the people that they want. And there are a couple of players, obviously, you know, Mainu, Garnacho, Rashford, Casemiro, that have been linked with moves. But I just don't see anybody paying what Manchester United would want. And Garnacho, the main thing, obviously, there's a couple of people asking us in the TikTok and on the comments in the YouTube brain. I mean, we're both very much on the same page, Charms and I, that it's completely unnecessary. Like, while Garnacho is one of the better players in a bad bunch in a Man United squad, Wes has just hit it on the nail on the head. We've got Estevao Willian coming in. We've got Paez coming in. We've got Tyreek George just made his Premier League debut yesterday. We've already got 4 wingers that don't fucking play. We do not need Garnacho. It would just be reparations for... If we took Garnacho, it'd just be, you know what, we feel bad for giving you Mason Mount for 55. You know, we'll do you a solid and take someone off your books. There is not a single player. I mean, Kobe Mainu mainly. Actually, you know what? What do you think about that? Has your opinion on the Kobe Mainu deal changed given our, Lavia and Enzo Fernandez out, our lack of centre midfield? Would it be a bad option to go and get Kobe Mainu?
So that last comment's just triggered me different. But I think that, listen, I think Kobe Mainu is a fantastic player. Like, I think he would be one of the stars in our midfield if he did make the switch. I've always said that, listen, if we do go for him, that I would not complain. But just how greedy do we really need to go out there and get another defensive midfielder? Because in the end of the day, let's say everyone's fit, he don't start. I hate to say it, but when everyone's fit, you don't start. And I think Kobe Mainu is a player that, like, he deserves to start. You know what I mean? Yep. It'd be like not starting Park Ji-sung because Michael Carrick's fit. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. You have to have that sort of engine. You know what I mean? Like Enzo provides going forward, and what Caicedo can do going backwards, and how well they can switch over tactically. I am a little bit torn because as much as I want it, I just don't think it's the right move for the player and the club involved. I really just don't think that we need it. Lavia is better than Mainu. Come on, again, it's his agents bumping up his price tags. Is he? It pains me to say that, but so. Is he?
I think Lavia is better than Mainu.
What are you looking at? I mean, listen, technically, carrying the ball, on the ball, attacking, I would agree with that. But I think defensively, Kobe Mainu's the one, mate.
Influence on the game, I just think Lavia has such a calming presence, and is one of those things that goes under the radar like Caicedo. Like Caicedo did, I think he was playing at 25% yesterday. He was absolutely fucking knackered, bro. After about 60 minutes, he did not want that armband when Reece James came off. He wanted to get off the pitch as well. He was fucking knackered. But the work that they do in that centre mid, I think, goes so under the radar, particularly in this Chelsea team, because of the mistakes at the back, the speed going forward. It does sometimes seem like the game bypasses them, but they are such a crucial link-up point. And I do think, I mean, yeah, obviously his injuries aren't great. Availability is the best ability. So Kobe Mainu may edge him in that sense. And obviously, well, if I'm not mistaken, Mainu has a little bit more time on his side. He's a little bit younger than Lavia. But look, both fantastic young players, both slightly different profiles. I think Kobe Mainu is a little bit more of a box-to-box than Lavia is kind of more of a sit-in midfielder. But I think they are both very, very good, very, comparable players. And yeah, while we, again, it's tough because we're sitting here and going, we've only got 2-3 players in depth. It would be greedy to sign somebody else. It is unnecessary, essentially. And we do have a lot of quality. And at the end of the day, we've invested a lot of money in these players that have 7-8 year contracts. So it's a little bit of a kick to the teeth for them, having been played for, 17%, 20% of their contract length. And then we've already gone, now you know what? We've had enough of him. So I think there's still time for both of them to show us, their best attributes and why they are worth what they are worth. But yeah, I would refrain from doing business with Manchester United purely because of the price tags. I think Garnacho ain't better than Mudryk as a stretch, Wes. I'm not going to pull that comment up. Ain't better than Mudryk as a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, he's not. I wouldn't pay what I paid for Mudryk, 62 mil. I wouldn't want to pay that for Garnacho. I think anything over 50. We're in a situation here where we've got to hold the leverage. It's very much let Manchester United. If you want to sell. We don't need him. We don't want him. We've already got one of your wingers on loan who we're going to take at the end of the season. So, yeah, unnecessary, but he wouldn't be the worst player in this Chelsea squad.
I was going to ask you about that. If it came down to it, and it came down to we get, United get Sancho back, but then we get to get Garnacho for, let's call it 40 million, yeah, good price. Or we confirm the Sancho on a 25 million and he's ours. What would you rather do?
I'd Sancho.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
There's
I would agree
no
with that.
risk because he's already come in and shown us that he
We've
can
seen
do
it.
it.
Yeah, I would agree with
And
that.
yeah, I mean, yesterday his touch at points is so fucking good. His close control. This is his. We're getting close to seeing the Jadon Sancho that we saw at Dortmund. And look, I mean, this guy is closer to an England call up than Raheem Sterling,
Ever
Marcus
really? Yeah.
Rashford,
Mm-hmm.
Phil Foden. You know, he's
I agree.
Bukayo Saka. There's a lot of players in there that listen, bro. Sancho gets in that team over Saka. I'm telling you. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me I'm wrong. But we'll move away. We have. I don't want to drag on too much, and there are a few transfers to kind of talk about. But there were two transfers that have been rejected in the last couple of days that have just kind of been absolutely West. The first one was West Ham bidding 57 million for John Duran. What do you think of that in terms of the value? Were they right to reject it? Is he worth more?
Probably not. It's probably a very, very, very fair evaluation. I mean, I was talking about this on Sunday. A very, very close family friend of mine is a very big Aston Villa fan, and he was saying he doesn't understand the whole John Duran situation, and he thinks that they should sell him, the minute that they get a good price tag. The only thing is, yeah, because he was saying that for him, Ollie Watkins is his striker. They want to do the whole two strikers, but it affects the midfield too much. And he said that he feels that the staff for their show is how their midfield works. And if you're to take John Duran and starting him just because he's good, start him just because he scores goals, him and Ollie Watkins have got to play completely different football. And apparently Ollie Watkins had said in an interview that they were thinking about, starting to implement them as a two striker, but he got the impression that Ollie Watkins wasn't really happy with that. And it was kind of more to shoehorn in John Duran into the side. I was very interested by that. I didn't really notice that. But I think now if you're Aston Villa, you got to pick one. I think that you've got to choose John Duran or Ollie Watkins. And I think that they've picked Ollie Watkins. And I can understand why. He's been at the club longer. He's a better servant. He's probably an all-round a better striker. And if you were saying in this summer that's just passed 4 or 5 months ago, that John Duran would be worth $7. The transfer window passed just
You didn't
gone,
say passed.
Just gone.
Just passed.
Oh my lord! I need to leave at the North England. I need to leave North England. Sorry, you lot. I'm from London. I promise. So transfer window just passed a few months ago. But listen,
23 hours down. Go, mine.
You tell me in September John Duran's worth 70 million. I'll tell you to go and do one. Simple. So why all of a sudden now, because he scored a few goals off of the bench from 65 yards, whatever, like fair enough, he's bagging from the halfway line and whatnot. But is he an upgrade on Ollie Watkins? No, but as the comment says, is he an upgrade on Jackson? I would say so. As a striker, as a finisher, probably. Link-up play, definitely not. But if you have him up top or even next to a Jackson, I think that's deadly, personally.
Yeah, I've said for a long time. I think this is one where we disagreed. I think you said you would have taken Delap over Duran. I would have taken Duran over Delap. And when we were linked for him for 40 mil, it was kind of one of those where I was like, is it necessary? No. Would I take him? Yeah, I ain't going to complain if we sign him for 40 mil. And ever since then, I mean, yeah, his price tag has just increased. He signed a new deal, which is probably why they were so quick to turn that 57 million down. But yeah, I mean, how old is Ollie Watkins? 27, 28? I think if they can hold on to Duran for 1-2 more seasons, we are going to see Ollie Watkins start to well, actually, I don't want to say that because he could do a Harry Kane and just keep scoring and getting better in his old age, because that seems like he has come into that purple patch kind of fairly late in his career. But all things considered, with players bursting onto the scene at 19, 20 nowadays. But look, if they can keep him, I think that's a fabulous. I don't think anybody in the Premier League has a better striker rotation than that. I mean, you could argue when he's fit, Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak. But obviously, Newcastle haven't really got a second striker at the moment. So I think you could argue Aston Villa have the strongest rotational option for centre forwards at the moment. And if they can keep it, look, they're in Europe. They're in the Champions League. So Duran will want to continue. If they can get Champions League again or Europe again, it will be interesting to see if they can hold on to him. But yeah, I'm surprised that they declined it so quickly. Bearing in mind as well that Duran has been begging to leave at every opportunity. But one transfer that I am not surprised in the slightest has been rejected. I think the audacity of this is I mean, they should be relegated just for offering it. Nottingham Forest offered 22 million for Johan Wissa.
I saw that earlier. Yeah, that's
The
crazy,
fuck?
bro. The cheek of that is mental. They forgot. They thought it was at 55 blood. They thought they flipped the twos, bro. They just read it upside down. It must be 22 million pound for player Johan Wissa. God, may as well offer them 18 million for Brian and Buemo. See what their reaction is, bro. It's not gonna happen, man. It's ridiculous. Borderline rude. Imagine someone went up and was like, "Yo, we'll give you 14 million for Callum Hudson-Odoi. Don't go fuck yourself." They won't even sell Taiwo Awoniyi. They don't even play him, bro. They're having these long, drawn-out negotiations with West Ham about Taiwo Awoniyi. They don't even like you anymore, bro. That's a last year problem. That's a 17th out of 20 striker. I don't know, man. I think it's just, listen, the Moneyball tactic, as we've called it with Nottingham Forest, it's effective. There's a moment where you got to put a little bit of a pin in it, mate, because I think that more than just yourself has figured out about Johan Wissa.
As you've just mentioned, Taiwo Awoniyi as well. Wesley reckons he's the perfect striker. I mean, I'd sooner go for Chris Wood than Taiwo Awoniyi. Taiwo Awoniyi doesn't score for us; he scores against us. If he plays against us, he's
pretty much.
I guarantee you, he's not the same player in a.
Hey, he loves Stamford Bridge, mate. He loves Stamford Bridge. We may as well sign him up. Do it at home.
True say. But we'll finish on Manchester City, who obviously we touched on earlier as, coming back into form. It's a big second half of the season for them. They will be going for the league title, whether it's empirically possible or not. They're going to go until the last day, and they've had a big window. They've spent the most out of everybody. Vita Rice, Kushanov, Marmoush, obviously, who you rate very highly. And they've also signed, I just wanted to mention this because I think it's absolutely fantastic. They've reportedly agreed, this is the third centre-back they're signing, but it's a 18-year-old centre-back called Juma Bar, who joined Real Valladolid last season. The season before last, he was playing in the Sierra Leone third tier of football. He has just one season at Real Valladolid, and he's signed for City, which I think is absolutely phenomenal and is testament to the work that Chelsea are doing, putting scouting networks down in Africa, because God knows we have had the best African players. We have been blessed with some stars, Michael Essien, Didier Drogba, to name two. And then you've got John Obi Mikel. We've had stars from every single African country virtually.
I was about to name
what do you think about
bro.
This? Some legends, man. What do you think about this City rebuild? Obviously, we've been saying for time they've got far too many players over 30. They need an injection of youth. It seems like they're following the Chelsea blueprint.
I'll be honest, the Kushanov one, I laughed very heavy. That's got dud written all over it. Man City, it's very, very, very rare that they do kind of sign duds, and even when they grab these players out of the back end of nowhere, they do end up just balling out. Kushanov, who the fuck is that? People do this thing here where they pretend. We were talking about this yesterday. People pretend they know who these people are. Kushanov is like some Uzbekistan winger who had a good season at Lens, I'm pretty sure. Like, I think the 50 million, I think that's what they paid for him, is just wild to me. Echeverry's a really good one. That's a really, really, really good one. And as we were saying earlier, Omar Marmoush is a player that I think is he's a one-of-one striker, man. And him playing next to Haaland, that is severely worrying.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because obviously we both rated Julian Alvarez very highly. He left for more game time. Does Marmoush work alongside Erling Haaland?
I think it gives Pep Roulette a little bit more of an option, and I think that is one thing that kind of helped Man City's progression. One thing that really helped Man City develop as a squad and win all the titles that they have is the fact that they've just always had someone there to kind of switch and change and swap. You know what I mean? City rebuild. Pep is a genius as long as he's here at the City, and we will forever be behind. Listen, I can understand that, but you will come to terms with the fact that if this continues, he can't stay. Arsenal did it with Arsene Wenger for years. Can't hang on to previous success. You got to kind of move on when it's time. But I think injury has played a massive part in this sort of fall off and why a rebuild is needed. But yeah, overall, I just think that one or two of these players are going to be absolutely excellent. And I think that the options that they're employing and the youth that they're getting it's going to be Pep roulette until it's not. The whole swapping all these players around and no one is safe is difficult. Because a few years later, those players that were getting 4 or 5 games over the first half of the season are now regular starters. Don't compare us to Pep, you madman. Listen.
We ain't on here for our conservative takes, bruv. We ain't here to fucking sit on the fence.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And Pep is going to have one or the other. He's going to leave at the peak of his powers, or he's going to dip off and leave you guys in the rut. Either way, you'll hate him. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, geezer.
Man quoted The Dark Knight to Pep Guardiola. Oh, fucking.
Well, he already. Do you know how I got these scars in the locker room blood? Do you know what I'm saying?
Bros, I had to say we haven't seen a scar appear on his head for the last couple of weeks. You know what? After all of that, it turns out it was just his missus driving him absolutely fucking bonkers at home.
Do you know what I mean? Texting him. You left the oven on. You didn't do the washing. He's just there going, "Shut up, man. We're 3-0 down."
I haven't won in 10 fucking weeks, love.
Do you know what I mean? You think I care about the fucking whites? Do you know what I'm saying?
Washing machine's broken again. Like, we got bigger fucking problems.
We're not going to have a washing machine if we don't win the league. You know what I'm saying?
Mad thing. But yeah, man, I think that just about rounds it up. There's probably been a few transfers and rumours, both Chelsea related and elsewhere, while we've been on stream. But we've got to save something for the rest of the week. And of course, we will have more transfer content for you this week. Chelsea are playing on Saturday against Manchester City. Big game. So we will, of course, be doing a live match reaction, hopefully a little preview for that as well. We're going to have an episode of Chopping It Up with Charms for you this week. We're going to hopefully have an episode, maybe Lone Watch, maybe Youth Watch. I'll decide a little bit. Well, I'll decide tomorrow and see what we can put out. But regardless, plenty of content for you on the YouTube. So make sure you are subscribed to @2Blues Podcast. Guys, if you're watching now, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to like, drop us a comment as well. Get involved in the chat and make sure, please, to subscribe to the channel @2Blues Podcast on the Instagram and TikTok as well. We'll be back very, very soon. Up the Chels.
Hey!